there's a
And
lot of shame around wanting to be rich. You're not allowed to
yeah.
say, you're not allowed to just say, I want to be rich. You have to say, I want lots of money, because when you have more money, you have more to share, and you can
Yeah,
make
you're
an
right.
impact and show people what's possible. And nobody apologizes that way for wanting lots of spaghetti. You don't say, like, if I have more spaghetti, then I have more spaghetti to give to others, and I can show people how much spaghetti is possible for them. You don't have to say that. So why do we have that weirdness around money?
It's wrong. It's just so wrong. But you know what? You did make it. You now have, I don't know how much money you make, but I know that it's more than you made back then. And I know that you
Mm-hmm.
made it being yourself, being your own
Yeah.
damn self and doing things your way. And yes, also getting to, sleep in as long as you want.
What does it take to put your life's work out there in a really big way? How much can I do with this one precious life? Welcome to The Selfish Gift.
If you love to sleep till noon and you're allergic to the word initiative, but you still want to live a big, rich life full of fame, fortune, and fun, this episode is for you. Laura Belgray may be the world's unlikeliest success story. She's a digital business superstar and the founder of Talking Shrimp, where she makes millions of dollars writing sassy emails to her huge devoted list. She's also the co-creator, along with Marie Forleo, of The Copy Cure, an online course in writing mouth-watering copy that makes your business sound like a human being. And now she's a published author. Laura's first book, Tough Titties, is out June 13th. Laura, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my gosh, Maggie, thank you so much for having me. And I love that intro. I'll correct one thing that I just heard. It's I don't necessarily have a huge devoted list. I have a hugely devoted list. But it's
That's better. That's better.
yes, it is better. But by industry standards, like compared with many of my colleagues, it is not a huge list by any means. But to people just starting out, it would be enormous, I think.
You know what? I'm on that list, and I got to tell you, it feels huge when I'm in it. I just feels huge, like a big, crowded, popular space for popular people. So that
Thank you.
just
Well,
so you know.
you are one of the popular people on it.
So, Tough Titties, that is a pretty spicy title. What's going to happen when they ask you to come on Good Morning America and then they can't say the name?
Oh, the jury's out on whether they're going to ask me on Good Morning America, because they will be pitched with the title and probably determined based on that whether they can. I have seen, and there's an effing in the subtitle on
There
Living Your Best
is.
Life When You're the Effing Worst. And I have seen even Andy Cohen hold up a book with effing in the title, or actually it was spelled out but with the asterisk,
Yeah.
and it was blacked out in tape even
Wow.
on Bravo, in the Bravo
Proves.
Clubhouse. Mm-hmm.
So, did you name your book before you wrote it, or whose idea was that title?
The title was my idea. I didn't know for the longest time while I was writing my book, because I've been working on this book for a long time and thinking and talking about it for an even longer time, and had no idea what it was going to be called and what the theme was. What is the big idea here? And the working title was New Dork City for a few years there.
Hey, I like that. I really like. Oh, that's cute. That's super cute. Yeah.
I kind of like it too. And I was like, not everyone will get it, and I think it makes sense to you in context of having read the book and knowing that I'm a big dork. But at any rate, I found myself finally, I was fretting over it for a long time. Like, what is this book? What is this book? And then found myself saying something that I say all the time, which was tough titties. And it was probably in response to someone saying, like, I want you to do this, or so-and-so wants you to do this or that, or thinks you should blank. And I was like, yeah, well, tough titties. And that is my natural response, A, because I'm 12, and still say that. And B, because I am just allergic to supposed to's and anything that I'm supposed to do in this life. And I was like, that encapsulates my book, Tough Titties.
No,
And
I love it. I
also,
love it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also because tits, I has them. So,
Who doesn't love them? Apparently they sell. So,
let's
okay,
hope.
Laura, I want to tell
Uh,
you something that you don't know about me. I did the copy cure, like, not kidding, 9 years ago or something. It
Whoa.
might have been when you first launched it. I don't know.
Yeah,
It
8
was
years
such a long
ago.
time.
We first
Okay.
launched it in 2015, so
Yeah.
that is a good 8 years ago. That's amazing.
I was there. I was there. I lapped it up, and I have to tell you, it completely changed the way that I immediately went and rewrote my website copy. I still get compliments on our website copy. I've rewritten it a bunch of times, but it really, really changed the way that I thought about how you can express yourself as a business person publicly. Although I had many layers of I have many layers of false selves to dig beneath, but at least it made my website a lot less sucky, as you put it. So
Awesome.
I'm a huge fan of yours. I'm a huge fan of hers, and I have giant business envy, and I have done for, like, 8 years at least or so. But you honestly, your program really did help me to write less sucky copy, 100%. And what really kind of grabbed me about that is, girl, I used to be a copywriter. Like,
Oh, wow.
I wrote copy back when I lived in London in the late 90s and early aughts. I worked for a magazine writing. It was a magazine that was done by the Orange cell phone network, and so we had a corporate client, and my job was to write the internal ads. And it was a kind of like a weird job, because you unlike most kinds of journalism, or unlike journalism, you don't get paid by the word. In fact, the ads were often like 1 or 2 words long, and that was
Yeah.
considered mwah, but
Yes.
it was all about writing in the brand voice. And when I launched my own business, um, I struggled with, like, what should my brand voice be? And I really, it didn't even occur to me that my brand voice could, and even maybe should, be my voice.
What? Whose? That's ridiculous. You need to
that
invent a persona.
Yeah,
No,
that
that's
secret person
great.
behind the curtain. Yeah, it really
Yes.
changed. Yeah, it changed the way I did that. But what's wild about that is that copywriting usually lives in the world of marketing, whereas
Yeah.
all kinds of forms of writing to do with personal expression are about art, or creative writing. So I'm so curious about um, the nexus point between those two things, and why
Mm.
you seem to think that you can live so comfortably at that junction.
I love that question. And also, I just want to backtrack and say we have such similar backgrounds in that way, because I too was writing copy. I was a copywriter, but for magazines and then for TV promos. And I too was writing in the voice of first the magazine and then the network. And the network had a really strong voice. The magazine, where I struggled the most, it had what my boss thought should be an elegant voice. And she would say,
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be up here. And she would wave her hand over her head, which is the universal symbol for over my head. But she would always say that it needs to be up here. And, and I thought everything that I wrote should be, well, in my voice. It's like at the time, just like I was young and inexperienced and felt like everything should be edgy, funny, sassy, and she
Oh,
didn't
you
want
were a
that.
chronically afflicted artist. You just couldn't
Yes.
get it, couldn't get away from your own actual creative impulses. Um,
Exactly. And
and
then
and
the
yet,
network.
yeah.
No, go ahead.
Mm. Well, and
No, I
yet,
was going to say,
even writing in a brand voice requires, artistry, right? So you're still
yeah.
using creativity, but you're deploying it for some other form of expression, so to express some other persona, not yourself. And I
Yeah.
think that it takes a ton of confidence, may be the wrong word, maybe just vulnerability or openness, to be able to let your voice out. Um, do you think that everyone who is a business owner should write copy like that expresses themselves, and when shouldn't they?
I think it depends. Like if they have a voice that they like, and if they like who they are when they're with their friends and feel like, I wish I could be this way in my business. Then yes, they should. You should be that way in your business. And if you have a business that's way more, that caters to the way more buttoned up crowd, that's something I would never want. But some people do. Like some people are financial advisors, and
Mm.
um, even if they are financial advisors, I still think they should be who they are with their friends. Like if you're a financial advisor, and you try to make your brand voice stiff and buttoned up and formal, but then when a friend asks you for financial advice and you're like, okay, I'm going to give it to you straight because you're my friend. These things are a joke. This works. This doesn't. Everybody knows
Mm.
this is bullshit. I feel like that's who you should be in your business, and people will appreciate it and gravitate towards you because you don't sound like a business. You sound like a human. So actually, I'm going to change it depends to just yes, I do. I think
Mm.
that I think business is way more fulfilling when when you are expressing your voice and your thoughts and your feelings and your passions and all of that and your gripes. When you're expressing your personality through your business, it is way more fulfilling. It is more fun. It's less of a disconnect. So
Mhm.
you feel less burned out. I think we're way more inclined to get burned out on a business that expresses some persona that is not ours.
That makes so much sense, and I think that that's true for jobs too, right? Like, if you're working in a
Yeah.
job where you're required to show up as somebody other than who you feel you are inside, then, you're going to probably, hate that job, and that's the definition of soul sucking, right? And so if you're
Yeah.
launching your own business, why in the world would you create a job for yourself where you can't be yourself?
Right. I absolutely agree with you. And I, it's hard for me to say that it's a difficult thing to be vulnerable and open in one's writing and in one's self-expression, especially when it's public and through business, because it's something that I really enjoy. I enjoy putting things out there, and I enjoy being relatable and seeing people relate to me. It makes me feel connected to them. So when I share something that that other people would consider too vulnerable, too private, too raw, I feel like that's when I get the most connection with people. That's when I achieve a moment that feels really good. And
Mm.
I think it helped, right? It's contributed to my success because people know who I am. They want to learn from me. Things that I say stick with them more because they feel like it's coming from a friend, from somebody they know. And that's the effect that you have when you share your true self with an
Mm.
audience. They feel like they know you. They become loyal to you when, even if you offer the same thing that somebody else does, down the virtual street, they will choose you because they like the way you say it, and they like your attitude, and they like you as a person. And they're like, we buy from people we know, like, and trust. We pick the
Mhm.
friend, right? And so if you are real with your audience, they will feel like you are their friend, and you are being their friend by doing that.
Well, that makes so much sense, and it super comes across in everything that you share. It feels real. I would be really kind of shocked and sort of. I would probably feel kind of betrayed if you, if I meeting you today, you were like a really different person, and like, where's fun Laura that I came to love through her emails. But about this, the fact that you have, that's your natural inclination, is what you enjoy. Why do you think you find it easy? Is it because is this about confidence and being comfortable in your skin, or why do you find it easy when other people find it hard?
I don't know. I don't know where it started, this inclination to overshare, because it's certainly not the case that I grew up a confident person. Like, from reading Tough Titties, that I was kind of tortured in sixth grade, by someone who stole my best friend and taught the lesson really that I've had to unlearn, which is it's not safe to be me. And I tried very
Mhm.
hard to fit in for a very long time. And then I guess as I became an adult, or maybe it was in college, I don't know when it was, but I think I realized that people liked me for, when I was the most me.
Mm.
And I still want to be liked by people. I've never gotten over that.
Yeah,
I've never
sure.
become someone who gives zero Fs what people think of them. I want people to like me, but I feel I think I feel most liked when I share things about myself. And so there's a reward system there, I guess. And that gives me the
Yeah.
confidence to do it. It's not that I'm this super confident person. I'm just confident about that.
Well, that that also makes you even more likable and relatable. So thanks. Um,
Thank you.
what what was it? What you've written and shared a little bit about your experience of writing the book versus your experience of writing your emails and other kinds of material. You're obviously a fluent, experienced, capable writer, and yet sitting down to write the book
Yeah.
was hard, right? So
Yeah.
tell me
Oh,
a little bit about that. Why and what was it like for you?
it was so hard. It was easy at first because I was just writing stories, like basically recounting everything I remembered, every story that I liked to tell, every story that was something, still living in me. Like, I've got to put this in the book. 'Cause I
Hmm.
remember a lot. I have a good memory and a lot of stories that I like to tell, and those poured out of me onto the page when I wasn't trying to get it right, when I wasn't worrying about how should this start? How do these all fit together? Okay, I'll worry about that later. Later, I'll worry about how they fit together or whether they do and what I have to eliminate. But once I got into that arena, especially after handing a big stack pile, like hot mess of stuff to my editor and having her say, and she thought it was the manuscript. I was like, no, these are just the sample chapters you asked for. She apparently wanted like two or three, and I handed her everything I'd been working on so far, which amounted to
Mm.
85,000 words. I didn't count
Oh,
it. I
girl.
didn't
Oh.
know. I had no idea. Yeah, you know what a faux pas this was. I had no
Oh,
idea. I basically vomited all my stuff, all my words on her. And
oh,
she
my,
kept
my, my.
referring to it
Problem
as the,
child, problem child.
yeah, totally. I had no clue. And she kept referring to it as the manuscript. And I was like, it's not the manuscript. But she sent me an editorial letter after reading it all and was like, I don't know what you're trying to say. She started with, I know you're going to have a wonderful book eventually. And I was like, oh boy. There's a big but in here. I know that's the only nice thing she has to say. Um, and the but was, this is all over the place. What is the voice? I felt like, what is the voice? She said, where is the voice? I'm like, I am voice. What are you talking about? That's my thing. I am a voice. And she said, I don't know I'm not sure what the theme is here. We have to decide what is the principal theme. You need to write an introduction that sets it up. I keep asking for this. And
Mhm.
these all have to work together. So you have to decide what you want in and what it doesn't go in. And she's like, here are like 2 chapters that are working for me, out of like, I don't know, 20. And
Ugh.
so the job there was for me there was so much to do there. There was, first of all, connecting it all with the theme, deciding like what does connect all these stories? What is the theme in here? And what doesn't fit? And I was tortured by the things that didn't fit. Like, and I would, in the middle of the night, wake up thinking, oh, that story, like I have a chapter called Mugging Money. Um, and I would think about people who wanted those stories in, like who had said, you have to write a book called Mugging Money.
Mhm.
And somebody who's not, who knows if she'll even buy a
They
copy of the
were
book.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I have to make those chapters fit. And I was writing it for like, 50 different people in my mind. I was like, I have to please that person and that person and that person, and I have to write it for that person. And I was just tortured by these thoughts of the things that I'd have to cut out because I couldn't figure out how to wedge them in thematically. And eventually I just had to let them go. And
So how
and
much
had
how
to,
much of
go
those
ahead.
80,000 words do
Yeah.
you think you actually wound up cutting or rewriting or that's a
I
lot of
don't
material.
know, probably, I don't know, 30 or 40, but then what I kept ballooned to 100,000. And the book was supposed to be 75,000 words. So the end, I was like, these chapters are finally working together, but I have to cut out at least 20,000 words, if not more. And went through that. with my friend Suzanne, who's been my mentor, my writing mentor, my book mentor through all this. We applied a process that she called grooming. I don't know if that's what everyone calls it, but she's like, don't worry. You don't have to get rid of these big chunks. You don't have to cut off limbs. You just have to groom it. And there's so many words we can take out. And she would start going through it with putting them in orange if we could lose them, or she didn't even cut them. So this is all to say that writing an email, which I do at least 3 times a week to my list, or writing blog posts or writing captions, anything like that, is so much easier because it's a one-off. I don't have to think, how does this fit into the scheme of things? How does this fit thematically, on Wednesday with what I sent on Monday? And I also don't have to worry that much about how does this email start? Usually I'll write it, start it, and then maybe cut a few lines at the top that feel like throat clearing. But I'm not like, this has to start with a bang and it has to end with an absolute bang. Sometimes it's just like, that's what I got for you today, XO Laura.
Yeah. And then also with the chapters,
okay.
they kind of need to, be part of a theme, but also to sort of keep the story moving forward and, sort of leave the reader on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but also kind of tie up the theme of the chapter nicely. And there's a whole different tricky art to it. But
Yes.
You know what, Laura, I'm sort of astonished actually that did your editor clearly not sort of sit down with you before you started to write and say like, okay, here's the book that we've bought and this is what the theme is, and help you to map out the chapter structure at all? That's wild to me, because frankly, that's what we do in our publishing company. So I'm kind of astonished that you had to figure out your own way through the wilderness with that one.
Yeah, she kind of did. She said, I'm here anytime you want to talk. But I was I was just like, I don't even know where to start to talk about this. And she just kept insisting, you need to write this intro that sets up the theme. And I felt like I don't know it yet. I won't know it until I've written the book, until I've written all the chapters, then it starts to emerge. So it was a little bit of chicken and egg situation. And I don't know who's right in it. I mean, in the end, I ended up writing the intro in the end, and like that she kept insisting on. She's like, I don't know why you haven't written this yet. And I was like, it's just too hard because I don't know what it is yet. I don't know how to introduce it.
Well, I love that your book has a theme. I know that, it's obviously not a prescriptive book. It's not a self-help book, but it does have a really galvanizing, empowering message, or maybe we can call it a liberating message. You're so clear in your book that you're in support of this. For me, I don't know if this is your intended theme, but the takeaway is just be yourself, trust life, keep going forward, and even if you think you're losing, you still might win.
Yeah, I loved it. I love the way you summed it up. That is absolutely it. And that did emerge in the intro. I say something to that effect in the intro, but it took me a long time to come to that conclusion. And I think, I kind of had to wait until I'd written maybe the final chapter to feel like, okay, this is how I'm going to introduce it. I had slapped together something, bits and pieces, a lot of it from the proposal that my editor had bought the book based on and really liked. And she was like, it's all in there. But I had to refine it and see what it really was. I had to write the final chapter.
Yeah. And in my experience, that's super common. And in fact, even when, speaking of throat clearing, even in my experience, that's super common. And, even when authors that we're working with do write an introduction up front, I think it's a good thought exercise to sort of try to encapsulate and, get your eye on the theme so that you've got a bit of a North Star to point toward. But it always needs to be rewritten or, either from scratch or vastly reworked once you've written the chapters, so you really kind of have a sense of where you're going. But it comes through really crystal clear. One of the things that I love about your book is how this idea of authenticity, and what I thought of as I was reading it as embracing the lazy and just embracing like, no, I'm not going to get up before noon. I don't want to wear a pencil skirt. I'm not, so what what do you attribute your amazing success? Is it really all about kind of like failing forward, or do you secretly work really damn hard?
Well, right now I am working really damn hard, and the thing is, I'm not really proud of it. I feel like maybe it's because I've branded myself as a lazy person that it feels like n- unaligned with my integrity to, or my image as a lazy person to work so hard. But I think what it is, because everyone will argue, like, you're not really lazy. Look what you've done. Look what you do every day, and look how you go for, you walk 6 to 9 miles every day, which I do, and because I'm obsessive about it. But I think that where I think I am lazy in a true sense, and in the sense that I embrace, is that I don't locate my self-worth in how hard I work. And I think
Mm-hmm.
most people do, especially women, and
Mm-hmm.
um, they're ashamed if they're not super busy every moment. And they'll look at the calendar, and if there's blank space on it, they feel like something's wrong with them. They feel inadequate that day. And I'm absolutely the opposite. I love to see blank space. I love to have my time be my own. And I am very relaxed about it if I am not busy, and feel overwhelmed if I am, and sorry for myself. So I am lazy in that sense. And I like to be chill, and I am very comfortable with not doing much, and except that at the moment, and there are times in life when there's a lot to get done, and so I just have to work hard through those times, and so be it. But and
Yeah.
in terms of what I want, I'm not lazy. I want more than,
Mhm.
I would say my desires, my ambitions are kind of at odds with my work ethic.
Well, I mean, it's worked for you. I think that
Thank
it's
you.
pretty incredible, and I also, yeah, I completely get what you're saying. It's not about the kind of laziness that that shrinks into a small life. Like I'm just gonna, withdraw from the world and not participate in it. But it is really about prioritizing your own comfort, your own preferences, and like
Yeah.
you said, like not deriving your self worth from how hard you're striving. I'm still trying to learn that myself. Just the idea of like, oh, if I am going for a walk in the middle of the day, then I'm contributing to my own failure.
Right.
Like I'm,
Exactly.
and that just, so thank you for being a beacon and a shining example of how, we can actually serve ourselves and
Mm.
still do amazing things.
Yeah. And I would say that I am successful in a way that I value. And I'm not as successful as I could be in terms of, finances. Like I could probably be making millions more the way some of my friends and colleagues in the space are, they have 8-figure businesses. And that would be great. I love money. I would love those fat, high piles of money in my bank account, but not at the cost of the life that I want to have. And they don't have a lifestyle that I want in terms of their workday.
Hmm.
It does not look
Hmm.
the way I want mine to look. And it's managing huge teams and keeping
Hmm.
plates in the air and keeping the lights on for teams of like 20 people, 10 people, 20 people. And that's just not what I want. And so I'm not willing to sacrifice the life that I enjoy for what I want, for the money that I would like to have. So I think I have found a good balance. I make a lot of money by just about any standards. Maybe not my friends' standards who are in the space, but pretty much the rest of the world.
Yeah, well, amen to that. Yeah, well, and that is a form of wealth, isn't it? To
Hmm.
to have the freedom to live in the way that you choose. I mean, that's probably the ultimate form of wealth. Honestly, it's what is
Yeah,
money for if not that?
right.
Amazing.
I agree.
So Laura, I have a question for you about the memoir thing. Your book is your life story; it's a memoir, and you
Yeah.
share, like I said, it's got a theme that where I feel like coming away from it. Well, that was sort of inspiring. It wasn't exactly a self help book, but it wasn't not a self help book in a way. But yeah, but I'm curious to know, were you ever wrestling with a decision, or did you ever have pressure from either an agent or a publisher or an editor or whatever to write a how-to book that was more connected to your professional sphere of advice?
Absolutely. I had pressure from all around me. That was the book that I was expected to write, being in the industry that I'm in, was either a copywriting book, a marketing book, or some kind of self-help, any kind of prescriptive book with
Hmm.
bullet points at the end of each chapter, or a sidebar, or your next steps, and or your takeaways. And I refused to do that. It was the last kind of book I wanted to write. And
Why?
a f- I'm like, that's what I do all the time, is like find in my emails. I have struck a balance that works and that makes money. I use my emails to sell and to teach. And I didn't like, I wanted this to be different. I wanted this book to be a place where I could just tell my stories. And I did find that, well, I had to compromise what I thought I was going to do, which I thought I was just going to tell stories and that's it. You don't have permission to do that unless you are a big celebrity and the world wants to know your stories and they don't need any wisdom included in it. So eventually, I discovered throughout the writing process and through my editor, who kept kind of harping on this, not incorrectly, that my audience still expects some wisdom from me, still expects a point or a point of view. And I was like, okay, I
Hmm.
can get with that. And reading a few other people's books uh, in this genre of like personal essay, memoir, and essays, I did find that some stories left me thinking, huh, fun story, but why'd you tell me that? Like, I want it to
Hmm.
end with some sort of punch, with some sort of point. Like, what are you trying to say here? So I started to become very critical of other people's work, and then put that pressure. And I think it was a smart move, like not unduly on myself. Like, I have to find the why. Why am I telling this story in this? What meaning is this story arcing to? But leading up to the book deal, I got for sure pushback. First of all, from people who are who write books and help people write books in the space. Like, even when I would talk to friends and people in my space who are in the book writing business, help people write books, or have written books themselves and are experts on writing a bestseller, they would say to me, like, so what is the central theme, or what is the central
Hmm.
point, or what are you teaching with this book? And their formats all revolved around, what is the book teaching? And I'm like, this isn't that kind of book. I would always say, it's not that kind of book. It's not teaching. It's not an expert book. And nobody could wrap their heads around that, because I think a lot of people don't even read books that are not expert books, that aren't prescriptive self help in my world. And I'm like, no, I'm writing a literary book. You don't understand. I got very snobby about it. And then
Good for you.
yes, so a friend of mine, very good friend, sold her book before I did, and she was very excited about it. And her book was a book of personal essays, and at least in the proposal. And I was excited for her and inspired, and I was like, if she can do it, so can I. And then her editor said, oh, no, 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 that's not the book you're writing. You're writing this other kind of book, and it's going to be based on this talk that you do. And
Hmm.
and it's going to be prescriptive. And so every chapter, she was like, what are the takeaways here? What are their next steps? And she had to make it into a business book or a personal development book. And I was like, I don't want that to happen to me. I will not let that happen to me, to my book. She was okay with it. She's like, self-help is hot. This is my first book. This is going to help it get out there, and you should do the same. And I was like, no, nope, I'm not gonna. And so when I queried some agents, I got quite a handful of rejections at first, and some of them saying, I don't really understand how the serial nature of these stories lines up with the promise of the proposal. And it was maybe a little split. And then an agent said yes. And gave me a offer of representation, and I said, I want to work with you as long as you promise that you will not let any editor, any publisher do what my friend's editor did to my
Mm.
book. And they said, okay, we promise. And so they took the book out and told me, so this was in October 2020 or September, October 2020. They said, we're shopping the book, we're shopping the proposal, set aside, these 3 days, block off these 3 days for meetings with editors. And I blocked them off, and I was like, ready for that bidding war. And
Yeah.
yeah, and the date started getting nearer, and I was like, am I still blocking off these days? I haven't heard anything from you. They're like, yeah, we're working on it. And then they finally said, block off like 2 p.m. on Thursday. And I was like,
Oh,
what about
oh,
the
oh.
others? And they're like, well, we
Hmm.
have someone who's interested, and you should listen to her, hear what she has to say. And I was like, but what about the others? And they're like, oh, well, everybody kind of was asking if you'd be willing to do a prescriptive book. And so, yeah, it was hard to get a book deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not as easy. Who knows? I might have given up the opportunity to have like the big multi 6-figure deal. I don't know if that would have come to me, but I was willing to sacrifice that to write the book that I wanted to write. This is the book I always wanted to write and have been talking about for so many years. If I'd gone with this prescriptive idea and written that as my first book so that I can write a different book, uh,
Mhm.
I would still be saying I haven't written my book.
Well, and you might always be saying it because if you'd started with a prescriptive book, then now you have a
Yeah,
track record. And now that's the
right.
kind of author that you are. And that's what your readers expect. And it's actually even worse. So good for
Yes.
you for going out on a limb and sticking to your guns. I will say for people listening that that's really hard to do. And it's not always a good idea. The fact is
Yeah.
that, prescriptive books are far easier to sell, not just to publishers, but to readers. That's why publishers are more likely to pick them up. What it takes to sell a memoir that's really truly kind of rooted in storytelling is one of two things. Yeah, well, one of several things, but the big thing is yes, celebrity status. If you're Prince Harry, Michelle
Yes.
Obama, people are going to buy
Right.
your book and hear your story. But the other reason why people buy those books is in the value of the writing. It's in the literary merit, and that's why it's such a crapshoot. And it's such an audacious play. It's hard to do. But what I love about your book and why I think that it is so successful. I mean, I'm not talking about sales yet because I know it still hasn't officially dropped yet, but I've read it and it's a successful book in the reading. And I think that the reason is that even though it is not grown out of your body of knowledge and your expertise, it is definitely grown out of your personality, and your personality is your business. Like you are, a person who writes from her own perspective in your work. And so this isn't like, who the hell is this stranger? You know,
Right.
you're very
Right.
much yourself. You're very much yourself in the book, just as you are in your business. So that's why I think it works. Plus, actually, I should have said this first. You're a very beautiful writer. So that's
Thank
also why it
you.
works.
Thank you so much for saying that. And yes, I agree that this book actually will be a successful match for my business. And thank you for saying it's
100%.
successful as a book, as a read, because that means everything to me. And that's what matters most to me. But, most of these books that I'm talking about, written by people with businesses, by business owners, they have like a quiz in the back or a QR
Yes.
code or something that leads people to their website and like, or sprinkle throughout the chapters, go to blah, blah, blah.com and I'll help you find this in yourself. And
Hmm.
so I don't have my book is not that kind of lead magnet the way theirs is. It's not a, book that's
Yeah.
going to make money like that off the back end, but I do feel like it increases my reach, my visibility. More people get to know me and maybe get curious about my business and want
Yeah.
to learn from me if they're interested in doing anything like my kind of work.
And it's authentic to you because you're such a boundary blurrer. Like I said, it's sort of like, are you writing marketing copy or are you expressing your personality? And it's like, well,
Yes.
both. Yes.
Yes.
So you're a very funny writer, and funny is part of what you do. I know that that's definitely a part of your personal brand. However, I also know that not everybody is, even funny people are not funny all the time. I like to think I'm a fairly funny person, but I'm not really a funny writer. And part of the reason is like I'm afraid to uh, build any kind of identity around that, because what about the days when I'm just like feeling like misanthropic and like gloomy
That's
and maybe
funny.
really okay. Okay. Laugh at my pain, laugh at my pain. But like I also love being gloomy and deep. So,
Yeah.
so it's like I picked gloomy and deep. I'm leaning into that instead. But but what did you like, how did you, you must be gloomy and deep sometimes too, and how did you, I don't know, I guess I'm asking you, are you comfortable and committed in your lane as a sort of a funny writer now that you've written a memoir that's sort of like in the vein of, let's say, a David Sedaris or something, that's who people are going to expect you to be. And what about when you're, have you ever had an urge to share something that super doesn't fit with that, and what did you do with it?
I feel like it is my style and my personality to have a sense of humor about pain. I mean, that's what humor is in a way, right? It's making pain funny.
Yeah.
It's making us laugh at our pain. And so I am never earnestly gloomy and deep. I mean, if I am having a breakdown, if I'm in a terrible mood or suffering or in pain, I still make it fun. I still bring humor to it. I mean, I wrote an email about my father's funeral. And I mean, it was fresh off of my father's funeral. It was maybe a couple of days later. And
Wow.
the subject line was, can you say ball sack at a funeral?
Okay. Not everybody can pull that off. Uh, yeah, that's remarkable. Yeah. um, and it works. It works. And, you wrote in your book, you write about, well, although you kind of mentioned it a little bit in passing, you mentioned that there was a spell of depression and a spell of
Mm.
frustration. And so was that, I don't know, is there more to that you're simply going to keep closer to your chest? Where
Mm,
does that fit in?
I don't think so. I mean, I perhaps have a gift of distancing myself from my feelings. um,
Such a New
a gift
Yorker.
and and child of a therapist, which I write about a lot in the
Oh,
book, because once my dad was so obsessed with psychoanalysis and his new career, which he switched to in his 40s, that he uh, feelings were all he wanted to know about and all he would talk about. And so I was probed all the way up my butthole for my feelings
ouch.
constantly. Yeah. Like, Dad, don't go up there. And so, so maybe that's where that ability comes to be like
Yeah,
shut
yeah.
off from my own feelings. But I do experience my feelings and express them, but but I would say never without making fun of it a little bit of
Uh-huh.
lightness. I feel like we can always bring some lightness, and some, especially if I'm writing about something a long time ago. Uh, like, I am not writing about that depression through the lens of depression, through being
Mm-hmm.
depressed. Even if I express that I was in a low place, like, it's still I don't need the reader to feel the pain, to go through it
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with me. And that's I mean, maybe a different kind of writing, and there's something to that. And some people find it cathartic to read something just painful, like clutch your chest, painful.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not my style. And I
That's
don't
my
think that I'm
jam.
being
That's my
false.
jam.
Yeah, that's your jam. That's your jam. Like you like to go
Yeah.
deep into the pain, and that's great.
Hmm.
And you don't have to, there's, not everything has to be funny. It's just, I'm very comfortable with me and more comfortable with making things funny. I feel like everything needs I'm also raised on sitcoms and
Yeah. Yeah.
shows where there's at the, end of a very earnest moment, there's always what is called in sitcoms a treacle cutter. Treacle meaning sweet. There's a sweetness cutter. So there'll always be a beat and then a line that's funny, that
Right.
cuts
Right.
the sweetness, that cuts that moment of too earnest.
So, and what about the sexy stuff? That's the other thing that is,
Hmm.
some people would find a little hard to share. How did
Yeah.
you kind of set and, maintain your own boundaries around? I mean, you have an entire chapter devoted to blowjobs, Laura,
Yes.
and I was impressed. Yeah. How did you decide what goes in, what goes out, and where are the B-sides hidden?
Yeah, well, honestly, I did I had to cut several of the blowjobs because it was just getting too long. My editor's cuts are all over that one. If you want to see the uncut chapter, if you will, maybe. Maybe that's what I should release. I'm going to release I am going to release a cut, like cut material. So
Oh
maybe
my
that's
God.
what it's.
Oh my God. That's great. That's great. But was that hard? Is there anything in the book that you regret sharing?
No, I listened to David Sedaris's masterclass. I think this is where he said this. He has a, on the app masterclass, that
Hmm.
platform. He has a masterclass that is fantastic. I love it. And I always plan to go back to it and listen to it again. But one of the things he talks about that he doesn't do, he has a few like no's, a few don'ts in whenever he writes something. One of them is like he doesn't use pop cultural references because he feels like they become dated and they exclude groups of people. He's translated all around the world. So instead
Hmm.
of saying, I was watching Bewitched, he'll say, I was watching a sitcom about an ordinary housewife who's also a witch. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then the other thing he said he doesn't do is share anything sexual. He doesn't share his private life. And, part of me was like, that's probably a good policy. But the other part of me was like,
For him.
for him,
Yeah.
for him, I,
Hmm.
I like it because it's something that I like to read. And I am a little prudish about certain things. Like I kind of don't want to read about orgasms. I don't know why. So that's where I suddenly get prudish. I'm like, ugh, I don't want to hear about that. But
Hmm.
especially when someone talks about it on a call or like reads me there when I'm like doing before and after makeovers of people's emails for business. And one of them's about like how many orgasms somebody had. I'm like, I know that this is your specialty and you have an audience like you teach tantric sex or something. I don't, yuck. I don't want to know it.
Icky.
So it's icky to me. So that's very arbitrary of me. Um, this was something that I was comfortable sharing. Again, it was from a long time ago. So I
Yeah.
partly feel like I'm writing about a character who's in a
Yeah. Yeah.
way
Yeah. Yeah.
not me.
Yeah.
It's me, but it's no longer me. So I feel like
Yeah.
I'm okay sharing her stuff.
Yes, I noticed there was very little content about your orgasms with your husband. But you're
That's
currently married. Very
very
little,
true.
if
Yes.
any. Yeah.
Right.
And you do have some hilarious stories in there, Laura. I mean, I want to hear about, so two stand out, and I don't even know if we have time because I want to talk about them both for like all day. One was the crazy self-help cult, which I found
Mhm.
super hysterical because and I don't live in New York. I live in Los Angeles and I fucking love
Oh.
that stuff. So like I'm all about that stuff. I love it and I sincerely get
Right.
into it. I don't have that same sort of like skepticism gene, but those people sounded truly ridiculous.
Yes. Yes.
So can you recap the story for us a little bit, please?
Yeah, sure. So back in around 2008, I know it was exactly 2008, because it was like right when the financial collapse happened. I started going to this thing that my friend Gina had talked about for a long time. She'd always told me, you have to come to this thing with me, this Monday night thing. And I was sort of intrigued by it when she was talking about it years before, but then didn't really want to go because I was having like a little bit of trouble with my relationship with my then boyfriend, who's now my husband. We got through it, but there she would talk about how, like, they say working on yourself doesn't work and working on your relationship doesn't work. And I kind of took that as a warning, like, if I go there, they're going to make me like drop my relationship, give up on my relationship instead of working on it. But then we were in a good place. My husband, we were now husband and wife. This was years
Mm-hmm.
later, and very happy together. And I was just in a rut creatively, and felt like I'd hit a plateau at work and wasn't coming up with new great ideas. And I felt like I hadn't found my thing, wanted to find my thing. And I also couldn't decide whether I was having kids. And I wanted
Mm.
to settle these questions, and I wanted someone to help me tap into my best me and become prolific and productive and a genius and always in my genius zone and clear about my life. And so my friend called me out of the blue. We had lost touch, and just when I was feeling like this, she was like, "Hey, you want to? Are you free on Monday night?" I was like, "Why?" And she was like, "You want to come to this thing with me?" And I was like, "Fine, I'll finally come to this thing with you." And I did, and it was this weekly workshop that I started going to. I was very skeptical about it. I felt like the people here were kind of weirdos and maybe losers. And the thing is that the two leaders, the people that you're talking about, Annie and Ira, um, would sit up at the front on these directors chairs, and we were all kind of in the audience, and they would start with their three principles. One of them is what you resist persists, and then a couple of others that kind of made sense to me. I'm like, okay, this is pretty good content, it makes sense. And I was amazed by how intuitive they seemed when people would stand up to talk, and they would say, like, aha, that, like, there was a model who stood up to talk, this beautiful, very, very skinny woman, probably anorexic woman. And he was like, she was talking about booking jobs, and he was like, I think you are incomplete with your father. And
Oh my God. Yeah.
and then he was like, aha, do I detect an inconvenient smile of truth there? She was like, yeah, maybe. And later I realized, like, oh, what anorexic model is complete with her father who doesn't have daddy issues? But
Yeah.
everything that they said in that first meeting felt so right on. I was like, these are geniuses. They really do have an intuition, even if everything they say feels a little icky to me. Like
Yeah. Kind of
they
mean.
use,
They're, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of mean. And everybody there seemed to use the same language. They had a
Mm-hmm.
common language. They would say, like, they wouldn't say, I'm feeling great. They'd say, I feel well in myself. Or they'd say, instead of saying, I'm really upset today, they'd say, I think that I might be dialing an upset. And
Wow.
yes,
Different.
yeah, yes. And, but these people had a way of building someone up and tearing them down at the same time. So people would get up to speak. That's how you did it. You would just get up and start speaking, like go to the front and start speaking when you had something to say. And they would cut in. Annie and Ira would cut in and say, well, hold on a second. You're talking about your overwhelm at work and this project you're working on, but I think that you are worried about something else. And the person would be like, yeah. And say, I think you are worried about how your chin wobbles.
Oh
And
my God.
and this actually happened. She's like, wait, what? And they're like, you're worried about that your chin wobbles and everyone can see it. And she's like, oh, I am? They're like, yeah.
Ah,
And maybe you need to just accept that your chin wobbles, and that, and she was up there for a while talking about her chin wobbling. And then she was like, can I sit down now? And we're like, sure you can. And she sat down and her chin wobbled as she sat. And now
it's
she was
so
thinking
gross.
about,
Yeah.
yeah, it was,
You're
and I
just
was like,
really preying on people's insecurities, really kind of
yes,
like, I'm going to hurt you so that I can soothe you. And, and there, look, didn't I do a great job and a great, aren't you glad that you came? And just
right.
for people to have some sort of like, moment of exposure and vulnerability is not by definition healing. That's not
No,
necessarily good for you, if you're not in
no,
a safe
especially
place. Yeah.
especially when you give them something new to feel vulnerable about, and
Right.
that's kind of how it worked. And I was
But girl,
signed
for
up
a New
for a
York
retreat.
skeptic, you went there
Yeah.
for, you went there for a whole year. You didn't just like pop in and pop out. You stuck with it. You went to Costa
A
Rica with
year
those
and a
people.
half. I went to Costa Rica. I had already signed up when this chin wobbling moment happened, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Do I really want to go on this trip?" And like, what on me are they going to say wobbles over a week in Costa Rica? And it was a torturous kind of week. I mean, the gloves were off in those, they did the same kind of stuff. It was sessions like this every day where people would go up to talk, but the gloves were off and they were even meaner, and everybody would kind of attack each other under the name of, I have feedback for you.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
climax of this whole trip was a moment where they told us, we're going to break, go back to your rooms, and come back in 30 minutes in your swimsuits. And I was like, oh, we're going to the beach. We're finally going to the
Oh,
beach.
that. Yeah.
And
That
no, we
scene made me
weren't.
cringe. Okay. Okay.
We
So
were
what happened?
not.
Yeah.
We were not going
Oh,
to the beach. We came back and they explained how this was going to work. They're like, okay, you're divided, group one, group two. Group one is going to sit here in your seats. Group two is going to stand up on the platform in your swimsuits for 30 minutes. And
oh,
so we had to stand there silently in our swimsuits with, bikinis and briefs and whatever, with the other half of the group just looking at us in silence
ew.
for 30 minutes, for this painful 30 minutes. It was apparently an exercise in being seen. And it was for me an exercise in just discomfort and humiliation. And I hated it.
Laura,
And when
that whole entire story about those people, it just, it's almost enough to make a person like me move to New York. I'm never going to the desert again.
Oh my God, the
um,
desert. I'm
uh,
sure it's just,
uh,
your standard fare in the desert
yeah,
and in
yeah.
California, like all the self-help stuff. But
Well,
yeah. So I
you
stayed
tell.
in it.
Mhm.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I just stayed for that long because I was still waiting for it to work. I was waiting
Mhm.
for this moment where I found my thing, where I figured out what would make me tens of billions of, well, I'd say tens of millions of dollars while expressing myself. And I was waiting to become this new person, and that never happened. And I was shamed by them for wanting
Mm.
these things. I would say, I would get up, and when it was my turn to talk, I would get up and talk about how I wanted to make tens of millions of dollars. And people would say, well, you seem very entitled. You seem to want a lot without having to work for it. And I was like, well, I'm willing to work for it. I never said I wouldn't work for it, but yeah, I want a lot. And there was this shame around wanting more. And you were supposed to love what you have and love what is, and not want more
I
than
mean,
what you
you can
have.
do both. You can love what you have and love what
Yeah,
is, and also want more. I liked the email that
exactly.
you sent out about a month ago or something, saying that like nobody ever shames you for loving spaghetti and wanting more spaghetti. See, I read too fast, don't
That's right.
you?
Right. There's a
And
lot of shame around wanting to be rich. You're not allowed to
yeah, yeah,
say, you're not allowed to just say, I want to be rich. You have to say, I want lots of money, because when you have more money, you have more to share, and you can
yeah.
make
You're
an
right.
impact and show people what's possible. And nobody apologizes that way for wanting lots of spaghetti. You don't say, like, if I have more spaghetti, then I have more spaghetti to give to others, and I can show people how much spaghetti is possible for them. You don't have to say that. So why do we have that weirdness around money?
It's wrong. It's just so wrong. But you know what? You did make it. You now have, I don't know how much money you make, but I know that it's more than you made back then. And I know that you
Mm-hmm.
made it being yourself, being your own
Yeah.
damn self and doing things your way. And yes, also getting to, sleep in as long as you want. And unapologetically prioritizing what matters to you. So briefly tell us, how that happened. I know this is a whole story in itself, but seriously, this, because it isn't about sort of like sticking to some kind of prescribed path and just like going on the hustle culture grind. It really is about like looking for opportunities, using what you've got and making it work in a smart way. But in your case, how did you crack the nut?
Yeah, well, I would say finding work, like this world of being able to work on the internet and be a personal brand, was a huge opportunity for me. And it's not like I seized it and said, oh, I have an opportunity to be a personal brand and make money being me. That was always my quest, was to make money being me. But segueing into the online world, where I had took on private clients, I segued out of TV promo writing and into writing for private clients, right, helping them with their copy, um, and getting those clients really through expressing myself, through my blog, through putting my writing out there. They would say, I love your copy. Can I, how can I work with you? I love your copy. Can you help me write copy like that? Kind of just saw my blog posts, my content as
Mm.
copy. And in essence, it was, because it got me clients. Um, and so that's how I started in that space. And eventually I started getting tired of, once again, writing in other people's voices, or helping them write in their voice. I love helping people find their voice. It's very satisfying. But really, I wanted the writing I did to be from me, through me, an expression of my voice. And so I switched my focus from helping private clients and doing one-on-ones with them to teaching groups and creating courses that help people find their own voice through copywriting and through these courses, and using my emails to sell this, instead of just telling stories in my emails. I started using them to sell, and using the stories to sell. And I think that's where I found that nexus of copywriting and personal writing. That's how it
Mm-hmm.
all came together. And then, becoming more prolific, because I was able to, because I was really obsessed with what I was writing, and it was fun for me. It's the work that feels lazy to me in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
If like that, I can sit on my couch while I have Real Housewives on in the background and write an email. I always loved writing emails and felt like, if only I could just get paid to write emails. And I realized
Mm-hmm.
one day I write emails that get me paid. And so I had to become more prolific. I had to become more visible and really focus on
Mm-hmm.
that. And that involves a lot of work, and you don't get it by by purely being lazy. I had to pitch. I had to pitch
Mm-hmm.
to online outlets, like media outlets, and get articles out there, and go on podcasts, and become visible, and become bingeable, and become a persona. Um, and I think that is how it all came together. It grew my list, it grew my visibility, it made people want to learn from me and buy from me. And that's how I eventually got paid to be me. And also by way of saying no to all the things that you were supposed to do in this business. I mean, there's so many things you're supposed to do, from your morning routine, like taking cold plunges. Marketing
Mm-hmm.
bros are really into that, like the cold water source, to having live challenges and webinars and all these things that you are supposed to do to create a scalable funnel that pays
Mm-hmm.
you 24/7. I love the idea of getting paid 24/7 passively, but these are just all things and mechanisms that I wasn't super interested in, and partly to my detriment because they do make a lot of money. But I have said no to a lot of things that you are supposed to do, and I feel like shaped a business that is what I am supposed to have, and have finally, by saying no to all these supposed tos, I have somehow ended up right where I'm supposed to be, and that feels good.
Yeah, amazing, Laura, and your authenticity in your approach. When I hear you tell your story like that, and think about what it means as an entrepreneur myself, to actually walk a line, that includes both professionalism and personal authenticity. What really strikes me is that there's a lot of I'm going to be really LA about this right now. There's a lot of personal growth and healing work that needs to that is behind all of that, and for many of us, the thing that gets in our way is that we feel at odds with ourselves somehow, and that I must give up a portion of myself, and maybe even the portion of myself that I most cherish, in order to have success. I'm selling myself out, because I think that that's necessary. And once you realize that, no, like, no matter who I am, no matter how weird or quirky or unconventional or lazy I am, there is a way for me to get paid to be myself. And
Yeah.
why not? Yeah, so inspiring. So, question for you: now that you have written your book, and I know that you're still doing your business, obviously, but did writing this book change you as a writer? Did it change the way that you write, and or the things you want to write next?
Yes, in a couple of ways. One, I think it made me more economical as a writer. I became very aware as I was writing it, that I would have to read it out loud in an audiobook, and it's like this line, I would start reading a line out loud or out loud in my head, and I was like, these sentences are way too long and complex to read out loud and to digest out loud. And I'm like, probably the best writing is also sounds good out loud. And I mean, I've always stood by that when it comes to copywriting, told people, like, write like you talk, read it out loud, and
Mm-hmm.
anything you're tripping over, rewrite. And I started to do that with my book, where I thought I had license to be more literary. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it made me more economical as a writer, more conscious of writing
Mm-hmm.
in shorter sentences, not trying to string them all together, taking out a lot of ellipses and em dashes and parentheses. Also, a lot of things I put in parentheses, Suzanne, the editor I referred to, would point out, like, this is important. Why is it in parentheses? Like, take out the
Mm-hmm.
parentheses. So I started taking out a lot of parentheses. And no longer write with them so much. And I'm also more aware of when I tell a story, like with the difference between an anecdote and a story. And this is something I struggled with, as I said, when I was writing the book, and also something David Sedaris pointed out in that masterclass. He talks about the difference between an anecdote and a story, and how a lot of what he wants to say, just like me, is really just an anecdote. It's really a funny thing to tell your friends, but in a book, it's like, what is the meaning of this? Where's the arc to meaning? And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm way more conscious of that. Um, and
So
as
now that
for
you've
what,
written
yeah,
a
go
whole
ahead.
entire book that's all about
Hmm.
sort of like who you are and how you became who you are, what have you left? What are you gonna? What are you gonna write? You sort of like spilled all the beans, but
Yeah,
yeah, what do you want to write next?
that's
Will
a
you do more
good
books?
question. Yeah, when I was finding my groove towards the end of it, when I was in a good place with the writing, and in a groove of rewriting and starting to have fun with it, like, oh, this is really working. I didn't want to give it up. I wasn't feeling like I just want this to be done. I kind of felt like, oh, wait, I want to keep doing this. I want to do more and write more books. Now that I'm marketing the book and, in this other headspace, I'm not so much feeling like I have another book in me right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping one emerges, because I do want to write more books. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
this to just be my one book. Like, I mean, God bless. I should only be so lucky to be, Harper Lee and have this one book, my one book, be the huge success. But I don't want it to be that way. I want to give people more. And so
Yeah.
I hope I come up with a what's next. I don't know it right now. I have several
Okay.
chapters
And I
that
have to,
didn't fit. Hmm.
right. And I have to say, it's a totally unfair question of me because you just wrote a damn book, and yeah, you're in the middle of launching it. You're in the middle of marketing it. And it's almost like, well, I know you write a lot about the fact, your choice not to have children, but it is a little bit like
Yes.
the person who has just given birth, and then people come along and say,
When
are
you
you
have
having it?
another.
Are you having another? It's like,
Yes.
shut up and go away. I just
Yeah. Someone
give me,
needs a
let me catch my breath.
sibling. Yeah.
I have no doubt, Laura Belgray, you are going to write many, many amazing books. Tough Titties is out June 13th. It's incredible. If you're listening to this before June 13th, you can pre-order it now. Go read it and laugh and find permission to find your own path to success, no matter how unconventional it may look to the rest of the world. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh my gosh, Maggie, thank you so much. This was the most incredible interview. I had a blast, and I could keep talking to you all day. So,
Well, we will. And actually, that reminds me.
oh yeah,
So, Laura, you and I are going to be together again in the online space. And so let's talk about that for a second.
yes,
So June 13th is the day of your book's official pub
hmm
day. And then on June 15th and 16th, my company Wonderwell is hosting a 2-day virtual workshop called Influencer to Author, and it features none other than yours truly. No, yours truly means
mine
me, right?
truly,
Yours truly.
yours truly.
I want to say yours truly. Features
I say
none
yours
other than,
truly.
yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. So, and you're going to come in, and we're going to do a more of a deep dive conversation where I'm going to be asking you more about the kind of behind the scenes of writing your book, what it took to
Mm.
really get your agent, how long it took, some of the business strategy behind your choices and decisions. And so for those of you listening at home, go to influencertoauthor.com and check it out. You can buy a ticket. So I'm looking forward to seeing you again there, Laura, and we will go into a deeper dive in that discussion.
I am so looking forward to that. I think it's a great topic. Let me ask you a question. Is this just for people who consider themselves influencers, or can it be for people who would never say, I'm an influencer, because they don't feel like they have a big enough platform?
So it's a great question. It's for it's definitely we're going to be sharing advice for people for whom building a platform is part of their publishing strategy, and you might be far along that path and have a really dedicated large. What did you call it? It was not a huge and
Not a
devoted
huge,
list, but a
not a huge
hugely
devoted
devoted list.
list. Yes, a hugely devoted list.
Yeah. So I think people who have a following, there's everybody's publishing a book right now, and self-publishing has made it possible for absolutely anyone to do that. But depending on what you're hoping to get out of it, the paths to publishing can look very different, what you're going to get out of it and what you have to bring to it. So for those that do have a following, there's a lot of like strategy and decision making that goes into it. Like, how do I publish? How do I make sure that I'm maximizing my audience, my potential, and how do I, get the deal with the publisher that's right for me and is going to allow me to write the book that I want to write. But I have to say, big asterisk, caveat, depending on what your goal is, right? So for you, your goal was really about, I want to write this book that's on my heart. For others,
Yeah.
their goal might be, to further their career, to make $1 million, to, XYZ. And the way to make that happen is going to look a little different depending on who you are. So we're going to be sharing a lot of advice really geared for people that have really strong commercial and consumer appeal potential in their books. And that includes a platform. But it's also for those who are in the earlier stages of building it. So how many followers do I need? What should my book be about to really connect with the audience that I have? What if I want to write something that's totally out of left field, et cetera, et cetera? So we'll have our New York Times best-selling and award-winning publishing team really kind of giving specific advice on how to do that well. We'll have a panel of literary agents sharing exactly like how they make their decisions and what you need to do to prepare. Advice from a publicist on what it takes to win earned media and what kinds of books are platform driven and what kinds of books are PR driven and how to know where you fit in. And then, of course, the centerpiece of it all is our VIP guest, yours truly.
It's yours truly.
Laura Belgray of Talking Shrimp and the soon-to-be best-selling memoir, Tough Titties. Yes. So
I
please,
love
come
it.
one, come all. Yeah.
I think the expression you're looking for might be the one and only.
The one and only.
That
Yes,
works.
Absolutely. That's just always true, isn't it? That's a safe one.
Yeah.
Laura, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so looking forward to chatting with you again.
Thank you. Same here. I can't wait for the 15th.
I really hope this conversation has inspired you to give so much of your gift to the world that it expands you into your greatest possible version of yourself. Remember, it's not selfish just because we also benefit from it. And here's where I get to make a selfish request. New podcasts need all the help they can get. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate the show and subscribe to us on your favorite platform. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram @selfishgiftpodcast. And send me a DM. I'd love to hear how you're sharing your gift with the world.